Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Miazga, Vice President of Sales and Membership at the American Supply Association. I'd like to welcome you to this special ASA Distributor Town Hall meeting. We're in some very tough times right now in our country with the COVID-19 crisis, and we certainly hope that everybody tuning in, your family, your coworkers and friends are staying as safe and healthy as possible. And we've convened some of the top minds in our industry here to get a first person boots on the ground account of how this crisis is affecting day-to-day operations in our industry. My panel here today will go East Coast to West Coast. Welcome Bill Condron, President and CEO of Concord, New Hampshire-based the Granite Group, New England distribution powerhouse, 44 locations in that neck of the woods. Thanks for joining us, Bill. We have from in Dayton, Ohio, Steve Edwards with us, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Winsupply. Winsupply has nearly 600 locations in 45 different states. Steve, thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, current ASA President Bill Glockner, the President and CEO of San Juan Capistrano, California-based Hirsch Pipe and Supply with 23 locations up and down Southern California. Bill, thank you as well for being here.
Thank you, Mike.
To start things off, I mean, this virus, have you guys had any firsthand folks working for you that have come down with a virus, or maybe folks that are working in your companies that know somebody close to them that's had the virus?
Yeah, we had someone test positive relatively early on in the process. The second week of March, this team member came in complaining of a sore throat. Our branch manager did the right thing and fabulous work in hindsight, especially. He sent him home. This was at the very early stages, as before this was on anyone's mind, before any social distancing or schools had been shut down. Then fast forward a week and a half later, the world had changed. We were dealing every day, meeting every day on how to respond. And in the middle of one of those meetings, we got a alert that he had tested positive. So we instituted our policy on how to handle it, which included immediately making everyone aware, shutting the branch down, bringing in a cleaning service, getting everybody, at that time, this was still early, so it was difficult, but getting everyone that needed to be in that branch tested. And then we shut the branch down, going back to the last day that positive team member was in the branch, fast forward 15 days. And we would have pushed that out further if any other team members had tested positive who had been in the branch, obviously, in that ensuing time. Thankfully, none of them did. And the best news of all is the team member who came down ill is okay, is showing no more symptoms, never had to be hospitalized, is doing quite well. So that's the most important news. From a Granite Group perspective, we did what we thought was the right thing and followed our protocol. We heard the next day from the Board of Health in New Hampshire saying that was the right thing. You followed the right procedures, which was good. Better to be lucky than good in this case. The other thing was fascinating to me. We announced this to our team in the branch and across the company at around noon. That first day we found out at 9:30 that morning, implemented everything, announced it at noon. And less than an hour and a half later, I got a call from a local reporter asking me to confirm the story. So this is, obviously, I think may you live in interesting times. This certainly was that. So, but like I said, the best news of all is the team member's happy and healthy. No one else has tested positive in that location. So consider ourselves pretty fortunate.
Steve, Bill?
Well, for us, certainly with our footprint and locations across the country and the number of employees who work in those locations, yeah, we did have some instances of people who've tested positive. If there was somebody who felt ill and did not come in as they were instructed, those locations have remained open, but we're obviously paying close attention to if anybody else in those locations would get ill as well. We have had some people who've tested positive that were in locations working, and we've had a few of those where we've shut those locations down. Same thing Bill said, we're shutting those down for 14 or 15 days, making sure that nobody else is testing positive in that time, and making sure we go through the proper quarantine timeline to before we would open back up for business.
How about current day? What extra precautions are you guys taking right now with the virus the way it is, and what are you doing logistics wise in the branches to keep folks as safe as possible?
Well, we've had to move everything outside the branch. We basically used to operate an operation where people would come into our counter, but now all the counters are essentially closed off. We've set up pop-up tents outside of our branches with tables, in some cases multiple tables with separate stations, even to keep the customers separated. We've rented porta potties so that customers don't have to enter the branch. We moved to no signature required in many cases, especially on delivery. And we have all of our associates have cell phones that they could use at the counter. So now everyone's using their own device. There's no sharing of computers or other devices. And obviously, we've had to provide everyone with protective personal equipment like gloves. We've tried to get some masks. We've issued bandanas, which has been helpful. I think people feel more comfortable. And obviously, hand sanitizer, hand washing, social distancing, it's just the norm now.
Same for us. A lot of the same things that are happening in our locations. Really encouraging the presidents of our locations to make sure they disinfect everything, even inside the trucks that they're driving. Finding ways to put material in a place where there's no contact between our folks and the customers. Allowing for more electronic correspondence, call, text, online ordering, those types of things, trying to reduce any type of contact and keep the social distancing in place.
We've done all the same, a lot of what these guys are talking about, and a lot of just, encouraging our people. A lot of it is common sense and be careful and be patient and be diligent. And using that and a lot of the things these other guys are talking about has been what we've implemented as well.
Mike, one of the things that's been really challenging has been trying to work with customers on returns. So at first, we were pretty strict about not accepting any returns, and now we've had to move to a little more relaxed policy. But we still generally don't do immediate returns. We'll quarantine the material for 24 to 48 hours before it gets inspected. So that there's just a lot of challenges during this time.
Yeah, we've done the same. We actually set up in each warehouse 5 pallets marked Monday to Friday, and any return we take, with gloves, everyone's wearing gloves, put it on the Monday and don't even go back to that box or open it up or deal with it until the next day or the day after. So it's kind of a way to stagger it. And customers get it by and large. They understand it. They know why we're doing it. And it's just another precaution to make our people feel a little more comfortable, which is paramount, obviously.
Two-part question here. Since this thing has gotten into overdrive, have you noticed change in business conditions? That'd be the first part of it. And the second part is, how are your customers feeling the effects of the pandemic, talking contractor-wise, folks of that nature?
Well, obviously business has been really affected. And we expect it to continue to be reduced. I think anything better than 30 to 40% off in this environment would be pretty fortunate. And that's the real challenge. A lot of customers are complaining that their jobs are being canceled because people don't want them in their homes. A lot of times there's not an inspector available for a project. There's a lot of different issues, I'm sure. Steve and Bill can speak to it.
Yeah, I'd say we've seen a little bit of lag in the dip in business. Now, of course, we're looking across a wide swath of operations here, but you know, really through last week, things have held pretty steady for us, but we're not being fooled by that. We know that there was some work that was already pent up, or orders that were made, and jobs that were being filled. And just yesterday, actually, we saw, you know, a pretty considerable drop off. So we're not expecting what we saw in the last few weeks to continue. We along the same lines as Bill, you know, 30 to 40% is probably what to expect.
Yeah, we've seen, Steve lives this on a national scale, but just in New England, it's very much state by state. So Vermont has taken the most aggressive stance. They've shut the state down, shut all job sites down. Literally, it's emergency work in homes or nothing. The rest of New England's been a little bit more reasonable about that. I don't know if that's the correct word, but been not as strict as Vermont. So business is a little steadier there. Throughout New England, same lag that these guys are talking about. You know, surprisingly okay for a while, and now starting to lag and come down. That said, and you asked about customers, our open orders are growing. So the customers are coming in and say, yeah, put that on tag and hold on. When this opens, I need that. Now, life could change. I mean, if this has taught us anything, it's things move remarkably fast. So that could certainly change. But currently, customers are approaching this as a moment in time, a slowdown, and then we'll get back to busy when then the gates open up again. But I think that could change as well. And I think we're all kind of, like Steve said, very mindful of watching that day to day and seeing where the trend lines are going.
What would you guys pinpoint right now as kind of the biggest challenge your company's endured, you know, during the crisis?
For us, it's certainly just the constant level of anxiety for our people, and just the fact that things are changing so quickly. We're having you know, daily scrum meetings with our executive team. We're sending out daily emails to our people, and we're doing town halls where we solicit their questions and try and answer them. And there's just a lot of fear, and people are sort of struggling because on the one hand, they're very grateful to have work, and they think that's important. And at the same time, they feel like they're putting their families at risk by being outside the home. So everyone just feels like they're in a no-win situation.
Yeah, I would agree. The fear has been the biggest thing. This has, you know, as this goes on, you have a public health crisis that's causing a possible financial crisis, or certainly financial concern. And so you have all the makings of what we went through in 08 and 09 and other downturns. And then you add on this fear you have for yourself. Not even, I think for a lot of people it's for their loved ones. It's for their parents, their immunochallenged children. It's all of that where the real concern is. And to Bill's point, there's that fear of, am I exposing them by coming to work? And we've been very open with any of our people. If you don't feel comfortable coming to work, don't. Certainly, to Steve's point, if you're showing any sort of signs of illness, please don't. But if you're just not comfortable, or you're living with people who you feel you could expose, stay home. And for now, we've been allowing them to use PTO to do that. We'll see how that plays out. But it's very much, if you don't feel comfortable, we don't want you to put yourselves in that situation. Or if you feel you're overly exposing somebody in your family, that your loved ones, please stay home, do what's right for your family, put your family and your health first. We'll figure out the work side of it. And that seems to have allayed some fears of the people who have them very acutely. But overall, there is still, all of us on this call, or if everybody dealing with this, there's a lot of concern and uncertainty and fear around how this is playing itself out.
Yeah, I concur with both Bills on that. You know, communication is really important during a time like this, and you have to strike the right balance between providing optimism and hope, but also realism too, and the reality of the situation. To Bill Condron's point, you know, we start just about every message making sure people know our number one top priority is the safety and the well-being of our people. And so we hit on that constantly, just to let people know that that is our top thought and our top priority. But letting people know what's going on, giving them our thoughts on where things are going, and again, trying to strike that balance between we'll get through this if we all follow what we're supposed to do, and we'll all be likely stronger because of it. But let's not ignore what's happening and understand it will be tough, and it will affect our businesses, and it'll affect us personally. and just trying to strike that right balance. I tell you, the other thing for us that's been tough, given our structure and our the way we're set up, is we operate all of our locations independently. And with the legislation that's coming out and all the various acts and the stimulus bill and those things, that's been a real challenge for us to keep on top of and try to explain those things in a succinct and easy to understand way, and to manage that for, again, 600 independent locations.
Yeah, I would just add on that to both Steve and Bill's point, this idea of communication. So that's been paramount. And to hear, you know, Bill's doing with town halls and things like that. One of the things Tracy Sponenberg, who's our chief people officer, was her idea, and it was like day one when we were first dealing with this. She said, we need to put a response team together and open an email address. So we have virusresponse@thegranitgroup.com, and I get it, our CFO and Tracy. And that's been invaluable because people have asked, I mean, up to, and we had a guy, team member who was, this is unbelievable, but he was in the hospital with the birth of his first child. And he didn't know if he could, they were quarantining from even being in the room. And then, can I come back to the office? How do I do it? So questions as personal as that, to, you know, just managers coming in and say, hey, this guy showed up with his symptoms, how should I handle it? Logistics questions, where can I get wipes? All these different things. But having that email, we get plenty a day, and we respond in real time. So it lets people know that there's communications in places to ask questions. And I think, like everybody, I've gotten calls, texts, so forth, emails from our people just looking for information. We've committed, I send an email out every day. This is what we're doing. This is where we're at. And early on, it was like, this is our response to this. This is our response to this. This is our response to this. Now it's updates that strike Steve's message of, you know, optimistic yet realistic, and both heavy doses of both. I also do videos. I know Bill's done a lot of those. They seem to resonate with people, and people seem to appreciate seeing you and seeing what your thoughts are and how you're talking through it, just 2 to 3 minute ones. So, I mean, everything that you see and these guys are talking about and everything that just feels right is just almost over communication, just constant, and openness, transparency, because no one knows. We're not hiding anything here. We're trying to get through this and do what's right for our businesses and what's right for our people and their families. So communicating that in a constant way, I think, is really important.
Obviously, I think we all agree that the human element here from an employee standpoint is paramount. Along those same lines, you guys have any examples of maybe folks that have gone above and beyond, you know, hero stories, someone that's really went the extra mile in what we're dealing with here?
I would just say we, you know on this like heroic one-time thing that's really, but I'm really proud of the people in our organization and in our industry. You know, we talk all the time about how we're terrible marketers for our own industry. And here, when there's a global pandemic and the majority of people are home, only essential people are allowed to work, and our people are working because they're providing this essential service to these customers who are providing essential. So just the people who come in every day and do their job and do it, you know, quietly and well and consistently and wisely, and, you know, by keeping themselves safe, just those guys who every day on those counters and in those trucks who are doing that work for us, I think is really speaks to the type of people we have in our company and on the companies on this call and in our industry. I think it's really, it shows in a time like this.
Yeah, I would definitely say our branch managers and our branch teams have just been tremendous. So we did a Zoom call. So we were going to have an all manager meeting in person. Of course, we canceled it, did it as a Zoom call. First time we had done that with, you know, over 50 people on a call. And this was probably about 2.5 weeks ago. And we laid out some of the situation, and literally the next morning at like 6 a.m., I start getting pictures from branch managers, how they're moving the operations outside the branch, which was fantastic. One guy actually wore a safety vest. And they put caution tape up, and it was just wonderful to see them taking such action. And other managers, one of our managers happened to be at Staples and saw that a shipment of hand sanitizer just come in. So he bought like a case of hand sanitizer and
liquid gold.
Yeah, I mean, just to get it for everybody. And we're seeing that again and again, where people are just, they see an opportunity to do something good. And they're doing that. So I think Bill's point is a great one. I mean, we have a great industry with just wonderful people. So that's what's going to get us through this.
What have you guys learned from Steve?
No, I was just going to say, I really don't have anything to add. I think what both both Bill and Bill have said sums it up well.
What has the, as up to this point with the pandemic, what have you guys taken out of it lesson wise? What have you learned so far, and what can you probably keep with you going forward?
You know, for us, it's I'd say it's for those of our people that did not or weren't with us through the Great Recession. This is a learning experience for them of how to manage a business during a tough time. For those that did live through the Great Recession earlier on, you know, 2008, 2009, it's interesting to see how those memories come back in terms of how they manage their business, managing their expenses, and so on. So I think for the newer people, this will be a lesson for whatever happens next, you know, a regular cyclical downturn or anything else that might happen that we all experience in the industry from time to time. On the positive side, you know, I would say it has forced a lot of people to get very comfortable with technology that may not have been comfortable with technology before. Just doing calls like this and interacting online, and those people that may not have been comfortable texting or doing a Zoom call or so on, and with all of our people, at least at our headquarter level, working remote, it's forced a lot of people to get comfortable with technology. So I think that will help us in the future.
Anybody had any predictions here? Where do you see business conditions heading? Is this going to continue on multiple months after this is eased off, or we're going to have a quick resolution?
I exited the prediction game about 3 weeks ago, so I don't think, I will just say, and Steve touched upon it, I do think a big wild card here is government intervention. And how that plays itself out. You know, tomorrow's the first day where the small businesses are going to have access, and we'll have to see how that goes. The money in unemployment and the one-time checks, and now they're talking about a stimulus that's even larger than phase 3. So I think that's going to factor in a lot to how this kind of comes out, and how if this is a regional rolling thing. You know, I think Steve's everywhere. Bill and I are on the coast, and I think the coasts are feeling it now first, and they're saying it could wave throughout different communities. That could happen. We could crest and slow, or it could go and be much broader and deeper. No one knows that. I just think a wild card in all that unknown is in what way the government stimulus impacts people and softens, shortens, or what have you, or none of it becomes longer. Right? I think that's a big wild card in however this plays out.
We certainly expect that this is going to go on for months. And I think when we do our projections, we're projecting that we'll be experiencing some effects at least through July, August. And then even after that, the question is, what will the new normal be? Particularly in terms of just how business gets conducted and some of the things that we used to do, such as we did a lot of sporting events before, and we just wonder how long it'll be before someone wants to go to a baseball game again. But you know, frankly, so much of our time is spent on just dealing with the here and now. And really we tell ourselves, look, we just need to stay focused on the present. We can worry about future scenarios, but it's not going to do us any good. The key is we need to take this day by day, minute by minute, and just stay in touch with each other and communicate. That's going to be the key to getting through this.
I agree with both. You know, we have the Cincinnati Reds here, so based on last year, it was pretty easy to go to a game and stay 6 feet away from anybody. But it will definitely change the way that everybody thinks about any type of interaction going forward. And it's to Bill's point about predicting, it's really hard to predict. Logic would say that, you know, we get through this at some point, and then, you know, there'll be a lot of pent up demand, and business will really spike coming back. But this has all been kind of illogical, so it's hard to predict.
Mm-hmm.
The two bills talked about the coasts getting a little bit hit a little bit harder. There's some states, if you look at maps, you know, they're not quite as affected as others. What kind of advice would you give to maybe someone that's sitting in an unaffected state right now, a distributor? where they may feel the virus coming much stronger here in a week to 2 weeks.
You know, I was on a call with Bill Glockner earlier this week, and we were talking about that. Like, don't we wish we had those 2 weeks? Because what would you do? And I mean, I would just start by modeling your business down, whatever, 30, 40, 20, whatever you think the number is. What would you do in that world? How would you get ahead of it? Because every sign points to it's coming. And up until now, no one who has said, "Ah, no, don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal," has fared better than those who have gotten ahead of it and been proactive. So I think, I guess my point of view on that is you'd regret wasting that time, because I think we all on this call, and all of us, if we had had that time, we would have done some things differently. Because when it does come, it is unbelievably quick. Like minutes, days, hours, days, like not weeks and months. As we all seen, this is super quick. So I would just prepare your business for that reality and is set up that, I would think, a response team, get that communication out to your people, start stocking up on supplies, all of those things that we're all doing now on the fly. I prep for in advance. And Steve can probably speak to this more fully, because I'm sure he's doing that in some markets. They're doing that in markets that aren't affected as opposed to others who are. But get aggressive now would be my view.
Yeah,
of it.
we're certainly sharing the experiences of what's happening in some markets, but not others yet. But I think it's also a good time to really double down on all the things that we say we do anyway. Getting close to customers, getting close to your partners, your manufacturers, all those things that we all think we do pretty well anyway, but there's always room for improvement. And knowing that something like this is coming is even more reason to do those things and really step on the gas pedal a little bit and make sure that you know what your customer needs are, where your vendors are being affected in other markets and how that might affect you. Some of those basics are really good.
I think it's really important to lean on your networks right now. So I was fortunate to be on an AD networking call, and yeah, we were talking with some distributors who really there's no coronavirus activity in their markets. So we were urging them to sort of take proactive steps. I think you should reach out to your ASA compatriots, and especially along the coasts, or your buying group compatriots, and talk to them about what they're seeing. Because as Bill said, I mean, literally one day I was on like a customer trip, and the next day, 2 days later, we're in lockdown. And suddenly it's like, wow, do you have to quarantine for 14 days? And so you had to like sequester yourself. It just changed instantly. So I think just run to the store, buy whatever hand sanitizer you can and wipes, but we probably already bought it. Sorry.
Well, guys, a ton of great information here. Like I said in the beginning, just a critical time in our country and certainly in our industry. And it was great to have 3 guys who are walking the walk and on a daily basis and marshaling their companies through it. I'd like to thank Steve Edwards of Winsupply, Bill Condron of the Granite Group, and ASA President Bill Glockner, Hirsch Pipe and Supply, for taking a couple of minutes to talk to me today. And for all the latest COVID-19 ASA related news, head over to asa.net and our special COVID-19 resource center. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Hang on, guys.